possible school. I am actually at the conclusion of today, and I wanted to stop and just reflect and make a video. So I've been walking around a little bit, but I finally found actually the grave marker for Lydia Hunter, which was one of the women on the Mormon battalion that went with them, because I went to the museum today and it was phenomenal. And so I wanted to end here at the resting place. She was actually buried somewhere else, but they moved her remains along with another Mormon brigade member or battalion member at the time here. Anyway, so I wanted to end here, and it was just like a really good reflective place to end the day, especially like walking amongst the veteran gravestones and other like grave markers as well, just because I used to be in the military. My dad was in the military, right? And so it was just like a really, and like overlooking the San Diego Bay, it's just a really great place to reflect. So I ended here. Anyways, I went to the temple this morning, the temple open house, and I was so excited. Me and Will went. Because today was the first day that it was open to the public, and we didn't get tickets or anything like that, our reservations, and I was so stoked. I just wanted to be the first group in, and so we made plans to arrive an hour early because it opened at 9, so we made plans to arrive an hour early. I actually ended up being like 15 minutes late, but thankfully Will got there early because I went to get a dirty chai at a local coffee shop. I did not plan. I was up since 5:32. I was so stoked. Anyways, wanted to be the first people to come in to like go in, because today was like a boundary, a physical threshold type thing, a moment in time where that temple, right? It was previously, before it was dedicated and whatnot, or this round after the renovations, the people that were allowed to see it, it was like VIP access, right? It was a very exclusive group that got to be able to see it. And today was like the boundary that was crossed about when it was open to the public at large, like the masses, right? If anyone can go in and see it. And to me, that's just like a huge thing, especially for what the symbolism and meaning and everything that goes on in there. And so I planned this trip to be on the first opening day, and we were the first group in, and it was so cool. And actually, I was the first person that got to walk into the celestial room, and that was dope. That was dope. Because I accidentally, like, the room prior, I sat in the chair right next to the door that was going to go out, and I had no idea where we were going to go out, but I just picked that chair, and so I got to be the first person to walk out and go into the celestial room. That was cool. Anyways, I picked this outfit on purpose just because it was like a significant opportunity for me, right? This is my first Latter-day Saint temple, going inside it, right? I've been outside of like a ton of them, but I've never been inside one, and it was so much fun. So I planned my outfit, right? I have my Jewish socks on, and then I got my Lady of Guadalupe representing my Catholics on, and I wore this shirt. Like, geology obviously rocks, right? You have that layer that's obviously got a lot of good humor there, and then but literally also, right, what else is made out of rocks if not the planet, right? The earth is made out of a bunch of rocks, and in the Bible, right, it says, upon this church I will build my rock, or, you know, and I was going into the temple, get it? Like, the building is built on planet. Anyways, it has that layer as well. So I wore this shirt, and also my girlfriend gave it to me. And then also I wore this. This is just a handkerchief, but I call it an ascot because it's more fancy. But I wore this too, but it represents kind of like the fruit, right? Because once you grow and plenish the earth, right, we can talk about Alma, we can talk about Garden of Eden, we can talk about all sorts of whimsy symbolism related to religious context. But I picked this because it has like fruit growing and it has greenery, right? So it's kind of like a full-on symbolic outfit here. And then also, right, like both religions, different branches. I didn't have anything for Islam, Esifa for my Islamic people, but did I have anything? No, I didn't have anything on. Anyways, but we can make symbolism white. They have white in their culture too, that's symbolic or something. Anyway, I just went all symbolic on my outfit, and I was just super happy to be part of the first group that got to go into the temple. And it was quite an extraordinary time. And actually, I'm so happy we got to go into the baptismal. Sorry, I'm trying to reflect on some of the things, and I was almost re-experiencing what we had like experienced or observed earlier. So I was trying to do that, remember it, while simultaneously or articulating it. But walking into the baptismal font, it was beautiful. Pictures do not do that justice because you're unaware of the scale of what you're perceiving and seeing. Like everyone's usually used to like a baptismal font is just like, you know, like it's like a glorified ice chest that's kind of like a walk-in ice chest, or like those big ones and you just dunk someone in kind of thing. They're not very glamorous, they're not very big, even, I mean, they're just like small, right? To see one that was like mounted with like the 12 oxen around and this huge, just beautiful like staircase or like bowl, or no, the staircases came up from the top. Anyways, it was just magnificent. It was just absolutely magnificent. It was kind of ironic because at the head, it was like, looked like it had like a swivel chair. So you have all of this beautiful, like ornate things that reminds you of like the Temple of Solomon. And like the original temples back in like the ancient biblical times in reference in the Old Testament. And then you got this like swivel chair at the top of it. Like an office chair, you know? It's like Star Trek meets like ancient Bible times or something, you know? But the oxen, I was talking to Will because Will went through it with me. We were talking afterwards at lunch. But the oxen, I was like, what does the oxen symbolize? I understand the 12, like the 12 tribes of Israel, but we were talking about how that symbolism arose, and it was almost as if like it was picked because, right, oxen represent strength, right, carrying of the yoke. You can relate that to some of the doctrine in multiple different religious texts. But why, I challenged the questions like, well, why an ox, right? Why not other animals? Why at the time, right, did that animal get picked? And if you look at that time period, oxen were utilized for agricultural needs, right? For instance, if that baptismal font was going to reflect other cultures and beliefs, like from like Chinese culture, for instance, or Indian culture, those would be 12 elephants, you know? So if the tribe of Israel was, you know, like at a different geographical location on the planet, we would see different animals there most likely, because they would utilize different animals as part of their local agricultural or development and growth of civilization, depending on the climate and stuff. And so I think it's curious because it's like, well, if you go strip it down all the way back, like why, keep asking why. Well, after you strip out all like the divine symbolism and all the meaning and stuff like that, it's like, well, the reason that it's an ox is because that's what was familiar and that's what utilized at that time period. Like if it was a spaceship, right, or if it was like a giant wagon, like if it was an American history, it'd be like a Clydesdale, you know? They didn't have horses back then, they didn't have those things. And so it's unique to see how, like, yeah, something that's as very, very basic as function, right? Because that symbolism all arose because that's what was available at a time and utilized. It had served a function, right? And so it was something that they were familiar with, and also, right, that's what put the yoke on it type thing. That's where the yoke symbolism, you can play on so many different things just based on pure practical function. But to see how much that symbolism has cascaded out, right? An animal, like, I guarantee you, if you have a human being that was from 2,000 years ago plowing the field with their oxen, and they were like, would you ever imagine that this, what you're doing now, how you're using this animal, would result in this? And like walk them into the baptismal font, they would be like floored. They would be like thinking that we are a higher advanced life form and like turn us into gods and worship us, you know? So, it's just so intriguing to trace back and see how much that symbolism and meaning and depth has carried through so many centuries of human history and advancement. But that was just absolutely beautiful in there. And I really like the shape of the baptismal font because it literally looked like one of these oranges with like a leaf coming off of it. Like if you ever seen like a picture of like something with like leaves on it and orange, it looked like a fruit, like a circle at the top, and then had two little like leaflets coming off at the top, like if that makes sense. And you can do all sorts of symbolism with that, right? That almost looks like a womb, you could say, and the uterus type thing. That thing, you could say it looks like the Palm Islands from the UAE. You can say it looks like, I don't know what else, bell curves or inverse bell curves, whatever. But it was very pretty and symmetric and aesthetic there. But it did innately remind me of like a womb when I first saw it, and it makes sense with like the baptismal thing. with what occurs there. But it's just like the scale and proportion of it was just so beautiful. And then walking through the celestial room, because one of the members, when I told him I was coming down here for the open house, he was like, try to go to the celestial room when like the sun is setting, which, you know, I'm not getting a chance to do when I go because I went first thing in the morning, but I guess I could technically go back. Anyways, I was very impressed, and I love that there was like no speaking aloud in there, because I just had like the moment of reflection and just being able to go in there. And as you're even walking in, just the experience, the tunnel of going in there with how the lights and the carpet and the colors, how they start to transition, it prepares you to go into the celestial room and get into this space of awe and wonder, just simply by looking at how the room is laid out, especially when you look up. And that makes sense for the celestial room. When you go to the center there, you can like look up the entire spiral there and see just like very beautiful geometric orientations and patterns that put you into a state of almost like a transcendent like state that helps you reflect or makes you feel like a sense of peace and things like that when you look up. Like I would love to like honestly lay on that carpet there and like just hotbox or come in like elevated with some California Holy Spirit, organic Holy Spirit, and just lay there and reflect and just like sit in silence and stare up into the spiral. It would be quite beautiful. Anywho, so I liked that location. That was really that room, that was really beautiful. And then the one thing that I kept recognizing, right, and seeing was oh, and then at the top too, there was like a garden at the top that like no one ever talks about. I'm like, guys, why don't you talk about this beautiful garden space at the top that you guys can just sit and ponder and reflect to, and you can see Moroni pointing. I guess I found out today they always point towards the east, and I was just like, I was honestly hoping for some cooler symbolism. I was like, come on, give me something better than like what everyone always answers. I'm just like, why the east? He says, because that's where the sun rises. And I'm just like, that's all everyone ever says, you know. That's why it's like east or west. Like those are the only two reasons anyone ever picks those directions. What about north and south, man? Let's go whimsy and let's try to come up with some new novel layer, but no one's done it yet. Anywho, what was I saying? The garden area up the top, it was so beautiful, like where it had all the glass surrounding it, and you can kind of sit around there and see, looking up and see Moroni and the geometric shapes and the architecture of the building. Very beautiful. Oh goodness, what else happened? I'll cut this video off just for the temple, and I'll save the Mormon Brigade place for another video, so I keep it short. Oh, the one thing I kept asking people, because on the doors here, they had a geometric shape. They had basically two squares that were offset to each other at a specific angulation, and in the middle was a circle. And so, obviously the two offset squares, it innately looked like the Star of David when you first look at it. But if you, that you are already aware of, like, oh, this symbol looks like the Star of David, or the two triangles inversed of each other. But then if you looked at it further, you saw it was actually two squares and just off axis, same thing. But it was beautiful symbolism, and you saw it repeated everywhere. It was like that hexagonal pattern there, the honeycomb shaped pattern, but I think it was like it wasn't a hexagon, it was an octagon that they had, but it was everywhere. It was like the theme throughout the entire place. So I was like, okay, this is different from other temples I've seen, in the symbolism and the shapes, the geometric shapes, and I'm aware that everything means something. So I said, okay, what's the symbolism behind this? And it was so much fun asking. I've asked maybe like 4 or 5 people. The most predominant thing was they didn't know, which is fair, but the 2 most intriguing answers I got was and to be fair, the people I asked were like the missionaries that were helping there. And when I asked like the more people that were not missionaries, more older in age, so have had perhaps more life experience, they came up with answers that were atypical, besides answering the simple I don't know. Because it's like they pondered and reflected, thinking, okay, like what exactly could I answer about this? Have I ever thought about this type thing? That sort of thing. So that was cool. One of the females said the symbolism could be whatever resonates with you, but she's like, oh, like that's what the symbolism is, you know. And I was like, oh, that was like a Heavenly Mother answer. I was like, you're a guru. That was a good one, you know, like namaste. You know. But so I like that, because inside, or I think one of the guys they talked about, someone mentioned symbolism or something like that. Oh, like they were telling some of the symbolism with the oxen and stuff, and the different rooms and whatnot. And so that, I loved hearing that, because that's how the human awareness works, right? You ping and you're aware of things that are familiar to you, that either like reiterate or validate certain patterns that are familiar, and it's so easy for people to group things into different categories. And so for her to say that it's whatever the symbolism means to you or resonates with you, that's what makes it so personal, right? Because what that symbolism could mean to me could be completely separate in that moment and mindset for Will. And Will even mentioned it. He was like, man, even coming back here, or even because we went to the Mormon Battalion Museum, he was like, coming back here, I've like learned something new, or I gained new insight, or this temple, just going through this temple, this tour with you, like there's just different things I noticed and perceived and thought. And I was like, dude, yeah, man, that's like, way to go. You know, that's awesome. Like how you're able to revisit these things, and that correlates back to the symbolism of the shape, the geometric shape there, because basically, like, right, his experience was equally as profound as mine, but he got something different symbolically or meaning out of it than I did, and that's what makes it tailored and unique to both of us. And so I loved her answer for that. And then we went to the guy, we were just leaving, and so I asked this one guy, and he was like, oh, it's the Melchizedek priesthood that he used to wear the stones and whatnot. And I was like, oh, I could see that. Yeah, that's a very functional, that makes sense for that shape comes from. And when he said that, though, I immediately recognized, because I had seen a picture in my Siddur that I was reading for the Jewish prayer book, where it has the pictures, and I saw like the breastplate where he has like the diamonds on it or the gemstones on it. And I was like, yeah, I know that shape. I knew exactly what you're talking about. So I laughed at that, I chuckled a little bit, but it made me laugh a little bit, because you see, I was already cued, the woman prior was like, it's whatever symbolism's meaningful for you type thing. And then the guy responds with, it's the Melchizedek priesthood gemstones. Okay, what's important for men within the Latter-day Saint faith belief system? It's the priesthood authority, right? The Melchizedek priesthood, right? And so that makes sense that the first thing that he symbolized or resonated with when he saw that was his priesthood authority, because that's what gives him the empowerment, right? That's what gives him the instruction, the capacity to do some of the things, or have the confidence, achieve the things that he wants in life, right? That's what helps give him the source of effort for him. And so I thought that was beautiful to end it on that. But I'm getting kind of hot and I didn't put sunscreen on, so I'm going to save the rest of the Mormon Battalion. But oh my gosh, wait, last thing. I wanted to talk to like all the missionaries that I saw, everyone with a name tag that was a young person, because there's so many people there. I was floored with all of them. There was one I overheard them. She's from Tonga. Someone was from, oh, that was the Battalion Museum. Some people were from Utah. I forget, no, did I ask anyone else where they were from? I just overheard them talking. It was in front of me. Anyways, the Tonga person, the missionary, she reminded me of the Mansfield family that I met in Utah, because like one of their in-laws is from Tonga. And so, that was cool, that connection. So it reminded me of them. So I like text the Mansfields, I text them Teresa, and I was just like, hey, like, I miss you guys, I wish you were here, kind of thing. It reminded me of you guys. But anyways, okay, I'm gonna get going, but paz vobiscum.